Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran. I help people using a spiritual perspective. Today's video is another video on twin flames. Okay, so popular concept, very chocolatey, sounds very good, but there are negative ramifications of the idea or the concept of a twin flame relationship. Okay, so I like to touch upon this, and talk about it and discuss it both in writing and on this YouTube channel because it is such a dangerous belief system. And it's dangerous for one particular reason. And you can really pinpoint it. And that reason is that when you believe that you have to be with one person, that there is only one person who can complete you, you narrow your field of vision. And you can get trapped very easily in relationships that mimic or appear like they could be a representation of true love or what we think of as a twin flame and are actually just very narcissistic, toxic sort of relationships, which you might refer to as karmic. Okay, so these types of ideas and this concept in particular is actually very damning towards people. Okay, so I wanted to sort of talk about what you should do if you find yourself in a toxic twin flame relationship, because a lot of people think that they have to just keep on going through something because of the label, because of this word, right? But usually in circumstances in life, you wouldn't keep doing something or repeating a relationship or something that is ultimately hurting you. You wouldn't keep punching a gorilla in the face and aggravating it as it beats you to death. You wouldn't, jump off of a cliff because you think that doing so allows you to be reborn as some amazing spiritual master. We wouldn't take dangerous actions if we could know ahead of time that they are actually dangerous. And so with the concept of twin flames, we do have a lot of actual elements or symptoms that could identify or be identified with as toxic. Right? So when you find yourself in a twin flame relationship that is toxic, your immediate response is going to be to try and justify the toxicity. You're going to hear other people say, and you yourself might say this, as I did, well, this is how it's supposed to go. Or because they're my twin flame, they're reflecting some kind of thing inside of myself. Right? As if the reason that they treat you like shit is because they are just reflecting or mirroring a way that you feel about yourself. That's not actually how reality works. I know that a lot of spiritual New Age people, seem to think that that's how it works, but it doesn't, because there are plenty of people who will treat you good even if you don't like yourself. And there are plenty of people who will be nice to you and who will treat you badly. Regardless of how you feel about yourself at all, you can feel great about yourself and have people reflect that back to you. And you can feel totally worthless and have that be reflected back to you as well. But it could also be a huge, a myriad of things, right? Up and down. So nothing is really as black and white as saying that we're just being mirrored back to each other, right? That's not really fully what's going on. Psychologically, we can explain that even as just, when you look for certain patterns, your brain's accustomed to doing that, you will find them, right? So this idea that your twin flame is actually just mirroring back to you your own feelings and that's why they treat you like shit or that's why it seems toxic, that's not true. If it's toxic, it's because there's something that isn't connecting. And part of this confusion or part of this disconnect is this concept or this idea that, well, this person is your one. They are the one you have to be with. This is the truest, most honest representation of love. Now, regardless of if that's true or not, because that's not something you can prove, that is in itself a lot of pressure. So you shouldn't be surprised to find that your divine masculine is constantly running away from the relationship. Well, I would run away too. Why wouldn't anybody if they felt like they had to do this? If it's an obligation, you don't want to do it. That's why nobody listens to their parents when they tell them to go do shit. Nobody wants to go do the dishes when you're telling them to. It's stupid. That's why you have to pay people to do that shit. So people don't want to do things that they feel obligated to do. And when you feel like there's an ultimatum, those never work in relationships either. So if the ultimatum is be with me forever or be single or do your own thing, then the choice becomes pretty easy. And this is why I have a big problem with the label of twin flames, just simply because of this pressure. And that pressure causes people to make choices that are bad for themselves and to stay with people or believe in connections that don't actually represent the truest form of love for either themselves or even the other person, or just in general. And it's because of this pressure, this huge focus. So what you should do when you find yourself in a toxic twin flame situation, and let's very, very quickly define what I mean by toxic here. Anything with physical abuse is obviously straight away toxic, okay? Emotional, verbal abuse, that's another toxic, okay? You can even describe these feelings as being in a relationship where you don't feel safe. That could even in itself be described as toxic, okay? And this is a fundamental long-term type of feeling. Everybody has fights, and no relationship or person is perfect. But when you're in a healthy connection, you work together and you communicate effectively and healthily. If you're in an unhealthy connection, that doesn't happen. So whether or not you're a soulmate, twin flame, or just two strangers meeting, if you cannot connect and you cannot talk appropriately and in a mature way, then one or both of you is not matching or resonating with each other. And you could describe that as toxic or immature. Okay, so if you're in this immature or toxic type of relationship with your twin flame, I am of the firm belief that, yeah, that's probably not your twin flame, because the idea is this concept is pigeonholing you into hyper-focusing on this idea of romance. And that idea is hurting you more than helping you, because you can't make choices for yourself. It's great that if you find yourself with a twin flame or a soulmate or whatever you want to call these people, that's wonderful. It's wonderful to believe in something. But to create a dialogue around it comes with, consequences. And you start focusing on the label, and because of the nature of it, and because of things, like Hollywood and this idea of finding perfect romance and perfect love, we start losing the ability to make our own choices. And that's not a good feeling to have in a relationship or even in your life. If you feel like it doesn't matter what you do, you're always meant to be with this person. So whether, if you fight, or if they don't call you, or they don't communicate with you, or it's been years since you've seen them, or they hurt on you, or they cheat on you, or they do drugs, or they do this, that, and the other, if all that's going on, but you have this concept that, well, despite all that, I'm supposed to be with them, then you're never going to leave. You're never going to make your own choice. And when you try to date other people, you're not going to ever get the full experience of what that could do for you, because you have attached yourself to this person, or this concept of this person, and you can't move away from them. You can't. So a twin flame relationship often for so many people becomes no different than a toxic or a narcissistic type of relationship or dynamic. And those exist all over the world and all over the backgrounds, all over different faiths and belief systems. I mean, do you know how many people on earth, if they knew the word twin flame, would think to themselves, oh shit, well, that girl or guy I dated for 4 years in my early 20s, well, that was my twin flame, right? You know how many people could probably say that if they just knew the word? Because of how similar the twin flame relationship is described and observed to be like a narcissistic relationship. You have one person who's more codependent, you have another person who takes the energy like a vampire. So many dynamics of twin flames act like this. And the idea is people start to categorize different parts of a twin flame. So you'll have people on YouTube like myself, maybe people with haircuts, and they will say things like, oh, well, there are no twin flames. And you'll have other people that will say, well, there are twin flames, but twin flames are just there as a catalyst to awaken you and to help you, and that you move on and you find somebody better, like a soulmate, because that's what you want. And then you have people that are like myself, I would probably want to say, that do believe in the concept, because why not? And I would say, my personal belief system is that a true twin flame is not a penny that you find on the street. Okay, it's not a common occurrence. It doesn't just happen. It would be something that finds you. And yes, it does have a catalytic type of response or experience in your life, but that it's not necessarily supposed to be negative or toxic. It's not supposed to hurt you as a person. It's supposed to make you grow and supposed to make you feel better about yourself. And I've had the experience or the blessing to go through both sort of dynamics, right? Of two different people who are the opposite of what I thought as a twin flame. So the first one I would think of as the false twin, with the second one you think of as the real one. And while those connections are definitely challenging in nature as they're designed to be, the narcissism or the toxicity of the first one is what I see in so many people and what I've seen in so many of my clients, whether they've been through coaching or tarot reading, and what I see other people talk about. And you'll see people and hear people talk about how they haven't seen this person they believe to be their twin, or they haven't talked to them in 5 years, 6 years, 10 years sometimes, and you think, well, what are you holding out for? What are you doing, right? When you find yourself in a relationship like this, you have to ask yourself, is my higher self, is the universe, is the purpose of this supposed to make me love myself more unconditionally, or make myself love them more unconditionally? And if you can honestly answer that question and see, what do you think your higher self would want from you? Try to treat yourself from the perspective of a parent, of an older, wiser version of yourself. Whether or not this is an 80-year-old version of yourself, or picturing a version of yourself that's lived many lifetimes. What would you try to gain from a twin flame relationship? And what would you try to gain from, to try to make it more vague, what would you try to gain from love or any relationship? And ultimately, you always want to come back to yourself. You always want to learn something about yourself. So the focus shouldn't be on this person or your divine masculine or whoever it is. It should be on yourself. And that's why all these twin flame gurus who try to sell you packages and programs for thousands of dollars or whatever, it all just says the same thing. It all just will go back to this idea of focusing on yourself, right? That's what these twin flame gurus are promising you when they say, oh, well, for $700 I can get you back with your twin flame. Yeah, do you want to know what their program is? It's to save you $700. Their program is focus on yourself. There you go. So I've just saved you $700. That's all it is. And so this is the idea. This is the whole point. Maybe nobody in the universe, your higher self, is trying to get you to pigeonhole yourself into forcing yourself to be with this person. Maybe the idea is that this catalyst is changing you as a person, changing who you are and how you think, and that has opened up your heart space so that you can love yourself and others more. And that the more that you give into this connection, the energy into this connection, the harder it's going to be to do that for yourself. And so ultimately it doesn't matter if this is a twin flame or a soulmate. If you're going to focus 80% of your love and 80% of your energy on someone else, you're going to suffer no matter what. And resentment will build towards the other person. And they will begin to resent you as well. So when you find yourself in a situation that feels toxic or unsafe or just uncomfortable and makes you feel like you're walking on eggshells, and that you feel trapped and you can't feel free, this is the type of connection that is getting you to love yourself more. Even if it could somehow save itself and turn into more mature, beautiful type of relationship over time, you still need to be the one to choose yourself. So we need to be able to take a step back from this label and not force ourselves to push through with something because we think that's what the universe wants. The universe, your higher self, does not want you to suffer like that. Suffering is a human thing. That's because of our brain. Suffering is what our mind's response is to pain. Okay? You're stuck in traffic. Traffic sucks. It just sucks. Nobody fucking likes traffic. But if you're in traffic, you can choose to scream and complain and talk about how your life should be like this and how you need to get to work and go home and, I don't know, what you masturbate or take a bath, whatever it is people do when they get home from work. I don't know. I've never been to work. But for the rest of us to have this awareness, you can take a step back and you can go, okay, well, I'm in traffic for an hour. I could listen to the radio, I could find some new music, I could call somebody up I haven't talked to in a long time, or I could just relax. And it sucks, but you can't do anything about it, right? And so this is sort of the idea. So that's suffering. So you don't need to do that with a twin flame relationship. The concept's already there. If you feel like you're in one, then there's nothing you can do about it. You can't change your opinion overnight. but you can't suffer through it. You shouldn't suffer through it. You shouldn't keep going through these motions of pain and suffering just because you're trying to justify the connection's existence. Because if it really does exist, it will always be true regardless of your opinion of it. So the best thing we can do if we do find ourselves in these type of connections or these types of twin flame relationships that do appear to be toxic and actually hurt us, best thing we can do is take a step back, focus on ourselves, and remind ourselves that we don't need to prove anything to anybody, and that we do need to stop acting as if this person is going to complete us, or that they are the ultimate love, or that nothing else exists out there that could possibly even come close. Because all of that is a lie. All of that is a story. And even if it's true that this person is the absolute one for you and you'll get married one day and have 6 kids and live in a bungalow in San Diego, it doesn't matter. Because in order to get to that point, you need to first start with where you are. And where you are is going to be a different phase than where you're getting to. You have to learn different lessons. So if you find yourself in a toxic situation or a toxic twin flame, my advice isn't necessarily to stop believing the concept of twin flames, but it would really benefit you if you could stop paying attention to the label, stop focusing on the person in your mind, and take a step back and ask yourself what kind of lessons are trying to be taught to you. What do you need from yourself right now? Can you own being single? Can you be with yourself? Can you be uncomfortable? Can you be comfortable with being uncomfortable? Can you miss somebody and still go to work? What practical life can you lead while being heartbroken? Can you do something about your heartbreak? Can you take up a new hobby? Can you do something with your life? Can you allow the catalysts that are going on around you to transform you? Because if you can't do that, then being in a relationship with somebody else, regardless of what you want to call them, is never going to be the solution.